Hello fellow makeup lovers, today we are doing a full face of Pat McGrath and just discussing which products I feel like are worth the price and which ones are not. There's some things that are stand out and other things that I feel like are very overhyped or they kind of just get the job done, but I just don't know that they're worth that price tag even though they're functional. Pat McGrath is currently having her 30% off sale on her website, so I thought this video could be helpful for y'all, and I did promise it a long time ago. I've been testing these out for over a year. I've been using them consistently and I feel like I can give you a pretty good thorough review. And also, this is my first time filming with my new background. This weekend, my boyfriend and I did a board and batten wall and I wanted to do some purple. So excited about it, but let's go ahead and jump on in to all of Pat McGrath. I don't own a primer from Pat McGrath. I just went ahead and used my normal daily moisturizer. I've just been really loving the Milk Makeup Moisturizer and it's been sitting for like a good 30 minutes now. So it's all the way soaked in. Let's go ahead and start off with the Pat McGrath foundation. So this is definitely one of the standouts for me from the entire Pat McGrath line. I really love it. It's a product that I've gone back to over and over again. I do have the shade Light 2. And I really like using this basically every way that you could possibly use it. And what I mean by that is that I'll use it on its own. I'll use it mixed in with like a liquid highlighter, especially the Auric Glow Lust. I think it's such a beautiful combination if you want this to be a little bit more glowy. I'll use it with a sponge. I'll use it with a brush. And I just never have any issues with it. I feel like it gives that like perfected skin look, but your skin still looks like skin. And I mean, it is very fancy packaging, but you know, I actually have like a vendetta against glass bottles because one time I dropped a brand new glass foundation and it busted and broke everywhere and basically broke my heart along with it. So like, I don't know if the luxurious feeling is worth the risk, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do one pump of that with my Anissa Beauty foundation brush. I also feel like because the foundation has a really good shade range that I was able to find like my perfect color, like the undertone and the shade and everything I feel like is just right for me. I feel like my skin looks really nice, but even super up close, it still looks like skin. That was just one pump worth, so going a little bit lighter, but I feel like it looks really good. Obviously, I've still got some spots peeking through because I need to spot conceal those, but I really love it overall, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you can get it on sale. I feel like if you're paying the full price, I think it's $68, and that's a lot. That is a lot for a foundation. But if you can get it 30% off, then I feel like for me, like it's worth it, and I would repurchase it at that discount. But it's really hard for me at this point to pay for anything Pat McGrath full price just because she does have sales a lot. And even like with the new collections, normally you can get a code for 10-15% off, something like that. So I'm a little bit spoiled, but now let's go ahead and use the Pat McGrath concealer. So I have the shade L1 and it is a very pale concealer. Definitely one of my lightest ones, one of my most brightening. Sometimes I'll use this like just on the inner corner, like just the very most spot here where I want a little extra brightness, and then I'll use a different concealer that's closer to my skin tone for the rest and kind of blend it together. It definitely has really good coverage to it, so I'll just do a little swoop on both sides and we can just stop right there. Like we don't need to add any more. And it's another product I would repurchase if I ran out just because I feel like it has good coverage. It doesn't get cakey under the eyes. I haven't noticed it creasing. It doesn't dry out my under eyes. I feel like it just kind of stays in place where I put it. And I don't normally go in with powder, but I will today just because we have a Pat McGrath powder to use. I'm gonna go in with the BK Beauty A506 and just start blending that out. Kind of just patting it on the inner corner where I want the most coverage, and then whatever's left over, just bring it along here. I feel like it covers my under eye circles really well. I didn't go in with a corrector or anything, which most days I do. Normally I feel like super pale concealers don't have as much coverage just like because you're covering something dark with something uber light, but I still feel like it does a really good job of covering my under eye circles. So next I have the Pat McGrath Labs Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder, and I have this in the shade Light, which is just essentially a white shade, and I do really like this. I'm not a powder girl, just being honest. I don't reach for this a ton because just in general, I don't powder my skin. But if I am looking for something to powder my under eyes, or I want my makeup to last a really long time, I do enjoy this. I feel like it just does a good job at setting and brightening underneath the eyes, while also not being cakey or powdery, which is kind of funny to say because like dipping my brush in, it does look like it's pretty powdery. But I feel like you can just go ahead and lightly set everything, and it does not get dry, it does not get cakey. I have dry skin, so that's why I typically don't love to powder. But I mean, I feel like if you just go in with a little bit and just go right underneath your eyes, it does look pretty good. So unfortunately, I do not have the Pat McGrath bronzer because I don't own it. I do kind of want to buy it, so let me know if you'd want to hear my thoughts on it. But let's go ahead and move on to blush. I have one individual blush in the shade Flirtatious, which is just a very nude, soft blush. And then I also have a little face palette from Bridgerton, and this has two blushes and a highlight in, but the highlight isn't really a highlight on my skin tones. I think I'm just gonna go in with Flirtatious because I'm not sure if the Bridgerton face palette is still available or not anymore. But let me just tell you my thoughts. I don't feel like you should have FOMO. I mean, I do love the Bridgerton packaging for sure. I think it's very cute. But as far as the blushes go, I don't feel like you're missing out. So I heard a lot of people saying that Pat McGrath had like one of the best blushes and like that it was one of the standout products. And like, don't get me wrong, like I feel like the blush is nice and there's pretty shades and it has nice packaging and it has like beautiful flowers. Like I can see the appeal, but I just don't feel like there's anything necessarily special going on with the blush. Like it looks pretty, but I feel like you can get the same look for way less from a lot of brands. And actually the formula of this reminds me a lot of the ColourPop blushes in this packaging. They're powder blushes. I'm not saying these are the exact same shade because I haven't swatched them together before, but I would say the formula is very similar. This is the shade To the 10 from ColourPop. Just in my humble opinion, I feel like the blushes are an overhyped product from Pat McGrath. I went ahead and did my brows and eyeshadow primer off camera, so let's talk about Pat McGrath's eyeshadow because I feel like that is definitely her most hyped product. I'm just gonna show you real quick the Pat McGrath eyeshadows that I have just so you know what I'm basing my experience on. I have the two Bridgerton collaborations, and then I have the Utopian Dream palette, which a really lovely subscriber sent to me. My first Pat McGrath palette was the Subliminal palette. And this one is just such a pretty like cool tone palette. I picked it out specifically because I felt like it was shades that I would go to over and over again. I'm gonna use this shade first as my highlighter, which I will mention that's one of my favorite things about Pat McGrath's palettes, or at least the bigger ones, is that they all have a shade that's like a light kind of satiny highlighting shade. And I really like using that for my eyes and my cheeks. And I don't have a highlighter from Pat McGrath. So normally when I'm doing a full face of Pat, I use an eyeshadow as my highlighter, so I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that on top. Like, you can't tell me that's not so pretty, and it just has like a nice satin finish. I feel like everyone talks about Pat McGrath's special shades, so I thought that was what I was gonna end up being in love with from her palettes. And the funny thing is that I actually feel like her standouts are her mattes. I don't know that they're standout enough to purchase like a palette at full price when it's $128, but I do feel like her mattes are really, really good and they're underrated. Like they just blend really easily and they're just a dream to work with, honestly. I can't remember ever having an issue blending any of her mattes out. I feel like it's extremely functional for me and how I like to do my makeup every day. Just grabbing a little bit of NYX glitter primer so we can go in with a special shadow on my lid. I feel like the special shadows are just, like, they're really beautiful, but I just don't know that they're that special. And I just don't know that they make the palettes worth the price. So for one, I know I'm a little biased because I have a lot of experience with a lot of indie brands, but I just feel like if you have indie shadows, then the special shadows from Pat McGrath are not that standout. If you have bought only from Sephora and you've never branched out, like it's very obvious to me why like people are obsessed with these shades, but I just feel like you can find them other places for much cheaper. So like that's just something that's like always stayed in my mind. It's just that I have like other palettes, other options where I can get so many special shades for less. And the thing is that with most palettes is that like there's 2 special shades at the end, but then like I see people like justifying purchasing the entire palette because of the 2 special shades. And then I also see people like doing the special shades and they're like nothing else compares, and I'm like, I don't know, I feel like there are things that compare. So anyways, I'm gonna go into this shade from Utopian Dreams because it is a really pretty one, and you'll see like it's shiny, it's beautiful. I do still like to use a NYX glitter primer because her special shades are not creamy. They're not wet in any means. They're actually a little bit more like dry and like textured to the touch. You can see, like, don't get me wrong, like, is that beautiful? Yes. But I just don't think that they're like above and beyond everything else. And I also don't really love that they are a little bit drier to the touch, because I feel like even using a glitter primer, even being careful, I still end up with like a ton of fallout. I have a lot of shadows that are similar in finish, but they have more of like a wet feel to them. So they tend to be less messy, and I really prefer that because, you know, I like to do my face first most days, and it's an extra step to clean it up. I would love to know if y'all have experience with Pat McGrath shadows, what your opinion was, if you felt it was super special or you felt kind of let down, because I'm kind of neutral. I do like them. I do think they're beautiful. I understand why people are obsessed, but at the same time, I just can't recommend them with my full chest. Like, I love the Subliminal palette, I really do. And I recommend that one more overall because I love the mattes, and I love, like, I just feel like if you're a cool tone girl, it's just a very easy everyday palette. So I can see like owning one Pat palette, one that like really satisfies all your needs. I can see that being like a special thing in your collection. But like, even for me, as much as I love makeup, like I just can't imagine like sitting here and collecting like stacks and stacks of Pat McGrath palettes, because the obsession is not that real. I mean, she definitely does some beautiful color stories, but then also, you know, oh my God, that's not going anywhere. I feel like some things are like low-key a scam, and I feel like people are gonna be offended when I say that. Some of the like limited edition packaging or like collaborations, but then it's just things that have already been released with like a sticker over top. Whew. I would have been so mad if I bought that. I actually did order the Pat McGrath mascara, but it never arrived. I don't know, there was like an issue with their shipping or something, so I can't tell you how I feel about it. Lastly, let's talk about Pat's lip products. So I have a few different types. I have a chapstick from Pat McGrath here. This is the Lip Fetish Lip Balm, and it's just the clear one. I mean, I'll throw a little bit on for the heck of it while we're talking, but this is like the most ridiculous thing. Like, if you're gonna buy a fancy lip balm, I don't recommend this. The only reason I have it is because it came in like a little Sephora favorites kit, and it was like a good deal altogether. But I think this is like $25 or something by itself, and like it literally just feels like a $1 chapstick. If you're wanting to splurge on any lip balm, I would recommend the Sol de Janeiro lip balm. I think it's $18, so it's definitely still a little bit expensive, but it is so good, so nourishing, it smells nice, and this I just feel like it just doesn't feel luxurious at all. I have 2 of the lipsticks from the Bridgerton collection. I am obsessed with the packaging of these. I think they are so, so cute, and I also really love the formula of them. They're kind of like a satiny, soft finish, super comfortable. They last well on the lips. I do overall really like them. I'm happy I purchased them. I think they have nice tones to them. I have the shades, let me see, I have Negligee, which is a slightly more like peachy shade on me. I know it's not screaming peach, but on my skin tone, I feel like it's my most wearable peach because I don't really go for peach tone lipsticks very often. And then I have Nude Romantique 2, which I feel like is more of like a mauve-y neutral on me, which again, I also really, really love, and I just feel like the tones were done well. I would recommend these if there's a shade you really like, but personally, I am not like on the hunt to buy more lipsticks from Pat McGrath. I would be open to purchasing it because I think the quality is decent, But when I'm looking to buy a high-end lipstick, I would definitely go Lisa Eldridge lipsticks all the way. Those are my absolute favorite, stand out, most worth the price lipsticks. So even though these aren't the same at all, I can't help but compare them in my head because I don't buy super expensive lipsticks that often. And then lastly, I have the Dare to Bare lip gloss, and I don't really love this. I regret purchasing it. I feel like sometimes it looks nice depending on what you have on your lips, but also sometimes it ends up breaking up and breaking apart, and I just don't find it to be like that reliable of a lip gloss. I have other things that are more affordable that I just prefer more, so this is a regret for me. Even though, again, I know that's like a cult favorite. People love Pat McGrath's lip glosses, but I will say it could be the tone. Sometimes when it comes to lines of lipsticks or lip glosses, the lighter shades just don't wear as nicely, so maybe if I tried something with a little bit more pigment in it, I would like it. But as for this specific shade, not a fan. So to go along with this look, I think I'm gonna use Negligee today. All right, y'all, so this is my finished full face of Pat McGrath, and as you can see, I feel like some of these products are definitely worth it, and then other things not so much. I feel like for me in the future, I would be most likely to purchase collaborations when done right, because I do really love the Bridgerton collaboration. And then also the foundation and the concealer I feel like are very standout to me. I feel like I'm interested in her complexion products above all else. I really hope this video was helpful for y'all. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.